Hello everyone, welcome to an academy. I am Dr. Avinash Sinha, a gold medalist, did PhD from IIT Kanpur, worked as a university professor and head. I have been teaching both philosophy and ethics to IAS aspirants for the last 15 years in Delhi with outstanding results. I am associated with an academy. Here I have completed 12 courses and I am going to begin the 13th course. I wrote several books and one of them is on GS4 entitled Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude. Now I shall give brief introduction of Philosophy Optional Paper 1. This Paper 1 Philosophy Optional consists of two sections, A and B. Section A deals with Western philosophy. Western philosophy is the philosophy of Europe, Greece and America, and this philosophy has been developed in 4 phases. The first phase is known as Greek philosophy or ancient philosophy. The second is known as medieval philosophy, and the third is known as Western modern philosophy, and the fourth is known as contemporary Western philosophy. Now the first Greek philosophy, that philosophy is the philosophy done by Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, and two important features are there of this Greek philosophy. The first one is that Greek philosophy laid much emphasis on the issues of metaphysics and less on the issues of epistemology, ethics and logic. Second, this Greek philosophy is a group philosophy. This means that here the philosophy has been developed in a group, and the leader of the group, he came to be known as the philosopher of Greece. For example, Plato was the leader of a group, and the final theory which was done in that group, that came to be known as the philosophy of Plato. Similar is the case with Aristotle. So these are two important features of Greek philosophy. This medieval philosophy is a philosophy which deals with only God, issues concerning God, the nature of God, the existence of God, and then how this God is related to the world. However, this medieval philosophy does not deal with technical philosophy in the sense that it does not discuss issues concerning metaphysics, epistemology, ethics and logic. It is on account of this that this period of philosophy is known as dark period of philosophy. Now the third phase is known as Western modern philosophy. There are two important features of Western modern philosophy. Number one, it is an individualistic philosophy. Here the philosophy has not been developed in a group. Say, for example, when we say Descartes philosophy, it is the philosophy of Descartes, not of any group that exists there. And the second important feature of Western modern philosophy is that it lays much emphasis on epistemology and less on metaphysics, ethics and logic. It is on account of this that there came two trends of Western philosophy known as rationalistic trend and empiricist trend. The rationalistic trend holds that reason is the only source of knowledge, and thinkers who belong to this rationalistic group are known as Descartes, Spinoza and Leibniz. The second one is empiricist trend. In this trend there are three important philosophers known as Locke, Berkeley and Hume. And then there comes Kant. Kant is known as a critic. His theory is known as criticism because he criticized both this theory of rationalism and empiricism. He said that for proper knowledge both reason and experience are equally important. So this phase is known as Western modern philosophy, and these are important thinkers whose philosophy you will study in this phase. The next is a contemporary Western philosophy. Now contemporary Western philosophy you can say to be a specialized philosophy because here some philosophers concentrate on one branch of philosophy, the other concentrate on other branch of philosophy. For example, some philosophers like Hegel, he concentrates on metaphysical issues of philosophy, whereas other philosophers like Moore, Russell, Wittgenstein and other logical positivism, then Husserl's phenomenology, existentialism, these are the philosophies which deal with the issues concerning epistemology. So, this is a sort of a specialization that we find there in the contemporary Western philosophy. So, here in this A section, you will be having the informations of these important philosophies of important philosophers. Now, the second section, that is B section, is the section which deals with Indian philosophy. Now, Indian philosophy is classified, Indian philosophical systems are classified into two classes, and they are known as heterodox philosophy and then orthodox philosophy. This division of Indian philosophical systems is done on the basis of belief in the Vedas. So, those philosophies which believe in Vedas, they come under the category of heterodox philosophy. Those philosophies which believe in Vedas are come under the categories of orthodox philosophy. On the other hand, those philosophies which does not believe in Vedas, they come under the category of heterodox philosophy. So, this is the point of division between the two classes. And under heterodox philosophy, there come three important philosophies known as Charvaka philosophy, then Jainism and Buddhism. This Charvaka philosophy holds that matter and only matter is the ultimate reality, and things and beings of the world can be explained on the basis of matter. The second, this Charvaka philosophy in its epistemology holds that perception is the only source of knowledge. It is on account of this that this philosophy rejects the Anuman or inference, Shabda Pramana and Upaman as sources of knowledge. Now, the second, Jainism. This Jainism is a philosophy which holds that the realities are many in number. So, its important metaphysical theory comes to be known as Anekantvad. And then we find that Jainism also deals with epistemology, and in epistemology, most important theory that Jainism has given is known as the theory of Syadvad. This theory holds that knowledge is not absolute, knowledge is relative, knowledge is partial. So, this we find here in the philosophy of Jainism. Then comes Buddhism. Now, Buddhism deals with first four noble truths, and these four noble truths are the truths which have been just propounded and spoken by Buddha himself. The first noble truth deals with the fact that these pains and sufferings of life are the facts of life, and the second noble truth deals with the causes of sufferings. The third noble truth deals with the concept of nirvana, and the fourth noble truth deals with Ashtangik Marga, on the basis of which one can attain that state of nirvana. So, these are four important noble truths which have been discussed in Buddhism, but there are also different schools of Buddhism, different sects of Buddhism. There are two important sects of Buddhism. The first is known as Hinayana, the other is known as Mahayana. And then in this Hinayana, we get some such school like Vaibhasikas and that Sautrantikas. And then in this Mahayana school, we find two important theories developed known as Vigyanvad and Shunyavad. So, these are some important theories which I shall be discussing in Buddhism or Buddhist philosophy. Then there come orthodox philosophies which believe in the existence of Vedas. These are, number one, that Nyaya Vaisheshika philosophy. Nyaya philosophy is basically an epistemology, and Vaisheshika philosophy is basically a metaphysics, and there we find that both Nyaya and Vaisheshika philosophies agree on different issues of both epistemology and metaphysics, with only two important differences between the two. Nyaya philosophy laid much emphasis on epistemology, and second, this Vaisheshika philosophy deals with basically metaphysics, but the epistemology, of course not the whole, is accepted by that Vaisheshika, and the metaphysics of Vaisheshika is accepted by this Nyaya philosophy. So it is also said that the difference between the two, again the second difference between Nyaya philosophy and Vaisheshika philosophy is that Nyaya philosophy holds that there are four important sources of knowledge. They are perception, inference, Shabd Praman and Upaman, whereas Vaisheshika philosophy holds that there are only two sources of knowledge known as perception and inference. Then comes Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy. Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy both are presented conjointly for the reason that both agree on several points except on two differences. The first difference, both first accept that the ultimate realities are Purush and Prakriti, but they differ on 2 points. Sankhya philosophy is known as theoretical philosophy, whereas Yoga philosophy is known as practical philosophy. What Sankhya theorizes, that is put into practice by Yoga philosophy. So this is one basic difference between this Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy. The second important difference between the two is that while this Sankhya philosophy holds that all Purushas can come to the state of bondage, whereas Yoga philosophy maintains that no, there is one Purusha which never comes in the state of bondage, and that Purusha, according to Yoga philosophy, is known as Supreme Purush, and Yoga also calls that Supreme Purush God. So this is all about this, what I shall be just discussing these two philosophies completely based on these issues. Then there come Mimamsa philosophy. Mimamsa philosophy also deals with epistemology, and there this Mimamsa philosophy holds and talks about Swatah Pramanyavad. It holds that the knowledge is valid intrinsically but invalid extrinsically. Then comes great philosophy of Vedanta. This Vedanta philosophy is discussed in 3 phases, and the first Vedanti is known as Sankara philosophy. Sankara holds that the Nirguna Brahma is the ultimate reality, and this Brahma is Abheda Bhed. This Brahma is Sat, Chit and Ananda. Whereas this Ramanuja philosophy, which is known as Vishishtadvait, this Sankara philosophy is known as Advaitavad, because Sankara holds that we cannot ascribe say positive qualities to Brahma. We can only describe Brahma negatively, not this, not this. So instead of saying that Brahma is one, we should say Brahma is not two, Advait, and that's why this philosophy of Sankara is known as Advaita philosophy. On the other hand, Ramanuja's philosophy is known as Vishishtadvait. It is Vishishtadvait in the sense that Ramanuja holds that the ultimate reality is such which had some positive attributes and qualities, and that's why this whereas according to Sankara, Brahma does not have any distinction. That's why here the theory is known as Abheda Bhed, whereas Ramanuja holds that there are distinctions between this God and the world. So the philosophy of Ramanuja is known as Vishishtadvait. And the third is Madhva. His philosophy is known as Dvaitadvait, because there what he thinks that there are two ultimate realities independent. And then comes last Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo holds that this development, he talks about Satchidanand as the ultimate reality, and there important point that he makes, that every evolution implies involution. First that Satchidanand comes to the lower sphere, then the lower sphere evolves into the higher sphere. And the most important theory that Sri Aurobindo has given is that on integral yoga. And there, this Sri Aurobindo is the first philosopher in the world who has drawn the attention of all philosophers towards the fact that philosophy, the function of philosophy must be practical, because people are suffering from practical problems of life, like economic problem, social problem, political problem. So philosophy should show the way how to settle these practical problems of life, and then philosophy should tell them just to show the way to attain that ultimate goal of moksha or liberation, or what Sri Aurobindo calls divine life. So it is this way that this entire Indian philosophy will be discussed. With this, now I am going to complete this brief introduction of paper 1. Thank you.